I'm here in LA, and I'm trying to I'm a little confused right now. I'm trying to figure out how to kind of handle all the stuff that's been kind of coming at me today. I've had a lot of interesting interactions today. Some stuff that I think that's required me to really take moments of pause in terms of kind of figuring out the best ways to respond, the best ways to be helpful to people. I got a phone call today. I woke up and I was working on something else. I had a couple of meetings I had to attend to, and I ended up getting a message that kind of made me reflect a little bit in terms of how I can be supportive. Like the rest of you, I saw this crazy stuff that happened last night in Dallas. And it's really left me quite disturbed and concerned about the future of this country, the future of our community, and what this means. And so, as I was working on this other project that I had to finish this morning, I wanted to actually go live earlier this morning, but I knew I had some other business I had to handle first. But as I was sort of preparing, I sort of thought about what are the most honest ways that I can actually lend some ideas on this that'll help you kind of process it in a way that makes sense. That'll help us kind of get um, from this what we're supposed to get, to learn what we need to learn, to strategize in the way we need to strategize. So anyway, one of the more interesting calls that I did get was I got a call from Kelly Michelle, who runs a platform called the Black Health Goddess, but she also does a lot of news and commentary and stuff like that. And she told me that I'd been following the news and everything else, and she said that she heard from the brother of the black man who was falsely accused of being involved in the Dallas police shootings. She said that he called her and or that they talked via text message and everything else, and that he needed help. He wanted some help from us. He said that he didn't really trust these other media outlets or these white folks or whatever. He said he trusted me, and it's not something I take lightly. I appreciate and respect that trust, and I won't betray that. And he basically let us know that since his brother was falsely accused, his name was Mark Hughes. His brother Mark, Corey Hughes, called us and said that his brother Mark, since he was falsely accused of being involved in this Dallas police shooting, they've been getting crazy death threats. They've been getting all kinds of death threats and on Twitter, on via email, all kinds of stuff. And he's in fear of his life. He said that he's in fear of his life. He's in fear for his family. And understand, this is to be taken very seriously because these brothers live in Dallas. In Dallas, they make a special breed of white people in Dallas. The white people in Dallas are very, very aggressive. A lot of them carry guns. Presidents of the United States, have been killed in Dallas. And lots of black people have been murdered in Dallas. Lynchings, were a regular thing in places like Dallas. And so, black male incarceration is a regular thing in Dallas. Killing black men has been, a big part, as much of the Dallas tradition as cowboy hats and horses and football. And so I'm very concerned for this brother. I'm waiting to hear back from, from his people. I want to help him. I don't know if he's watching any of this, but I definitely want to support the brother in any way that I can. I'm actually going to call a couple of lawyers I know down there so that he can get some support and some protection. He needs protection. I think you should leave the state. Get in your car. If you're watching this right now, brother, get in your car. Get in the car with your brother and drive away. Just leave. Go on a vacation, and get away from this because these people are serious right now. I really think. Like Yvette Carnell was actually talking about this the other day. Yvette Carnell from BreakingBrown.com was actually talking about how a lot of us don't realize that it's about to go down. She said it 2 weeks ago, actually, ironically, and she said people don't realize that it is about to go down, and I'll be damned if it ain't going down. When I saw the shootings this week that took place with Philando Castile and Alton Sterling in Baton Rouge and also in Falcon Heights, Minnesota. I knew at that time. I remember thinking, okay, this is going to really send shockwaves through the community because the shootings were different from the other shootings. Just the day before, I talked about another police shooting of a brother in New York who was actually killed in a road rage incident by a cop, and nobody really cared as much about it. But these shootings were disturbing because you actually saw somebody die, right there on video. You saw exactly what happened right as it was taking place. And a lot of people reacted differently to that than they do to stories of shootings. I think if either of these guys had died, sort of, I don't want to say in anonymity, but in a way where there were witnesses and a story, but not necessarily video, I really don't think the public outrage would have been what it was. And that on one hand, it's just interesting. On the other hand, it's a little bit concerning to me because I don't like the fact that we can only care about this kind of death, this kind of tragedy when we get to see it on video. I think that what I really hope that you'll do is use your imagination and imagine all the really imagine the horrible things or horrifically devastating things that occur when the cameras are not on. I want you to think about all the times that these brothers are being tortured and beaten to death and all these other things where the police come back with a story that pretty much says that this person got out of line and that they had to kill them for their own safety. That's pretty much what the story's always been. That's what they've done to black people for the longest. That's what they did during Black Wall Street when they went and they didn't just murder one or two people, they murdered hundreds of people. And what they did was they kept saying that we had to do it because these Negro savages were getting out of line. So anyway, I'm waiting actually to hear back from Kelly Michelle, who's in touch with Corey and Mark, and I'll try to bring them on so they can tell you their side of the story and tell you what's been going on. Also, I want to kind of talk about sort of just in terms of perspectives on all of this. One of the things that kind of crossed my mind was I was thinking about, okay, so what are the odds? What are the chances that we can end up in some sort of civil war situation or a race war or something like that? Because what disturbs me about all of this is that many of us believe, and I'm one of those people. Many of us believe that Philando Castile and Alton Sterling would be alive if they had not been black. If they had not been black and black men, they would still be alive today. The person that was accused of being the shooter, the person that they blew up with the robotic bomb because he was the Dallas shooter, he allegedly shot down all the cops, was Micah Johnson. Now, Micah Johnson, according to the police, again, this is all what somebody said. So you still have to have the investigation. But according to the police, Micah cited these police killings as his reason for retaliation. And on one hand, while we can certainly have our interpretation of Micah and whether he went too far or what kind of person he was, I looked at his background. I could see that this brother was a military. He was a soldier. And one of the things I imagine that they teach you in the military is that if somebody's killing people you care about, you fight back, right? So what's interesting is that this rule sort of changes when you're back in society, right? Now, if you're in Fallujah and you see one of your fellow soldiers get killed, you're supposed to go out there and do whatever you got to do to make it even, right? But for black folks, I think when black people get killed, the idea of retaliating against the force that took their life is seen as extreme, radical, unnecessary, violent, overly violent, mentally ill, whatever you want to call it. I don't know. I just know that if I'd known Micah as a person, if I'd known him before he died in this unfortunate incident, I'd be willing to bet you that he wouldn't be a brother I would be afraid of. I would be willing to bet you that he wouldn't be somebody where I say, oh my God, he's a homicidal maniac. He's a serial killer. Get away from him, right? He doesn't come off like a Jeffrey Dahmer. He comes off as a fed up black man. He comes off as the Black Panther who actually squeezed the trigger as opposed to just carrying the gun, right? Because we have a lot of black men who carry the gun, but not many black men have been willing to squeeze the trigger. Now, does that make it right? I don't know. I think that nothing is right about warfare, right? And here's what I do know. Here's what I do know. I'm not going to tell you what the right approach is or whether Michael Johnson was right to do what he did. But one thing that we do know is that if you look at the police force and its treatment of African American people and its consistent extermination of black males, which has occurred not just through physical violence, but also through mass incarceration and other epidemics that have destroyed families far more than any of those police bullets ever will. Um, you can really define police, particularly those who commit to various forms of brutality and those who co-sign on that brutality. You can look at them as a military force or a gang, if you will, a brutal gang that pretty much attacks and assaults and harms black people and feels that they have the power of the state in order to do that. So what do you do? What do you do if you are a soldier, like Michael Johnson was a soldier, and you see this military force, this gang, attacking and killing the people you love? Um, well, in some versions of reality, you say, well, no, you fight back. Respond. And so and what's interesting to me is the environment that we're in is that we've got to a point where the black middle class has been radicalized. The problem has gotten so severe that even Negroes with jobs, as I call them the Negroes with jobs, the ones who got the corporate jobs, who are sitting next to the white man every day, even they're radicalized. Even they're going to work pissed off. There used to be a time where people who had the corporate job would feel sorry for people like me who were outside of institutions. Right now, those people who are in the institutions want to be out here with us. There was a time when the field Negro or the house Negro thought the field Negro wanted to be with him. When now the house Negro is saying, I want to be out in the field with the field Negro. I envy the field Negro because that's what we are. People like me who say these things that other people can't say or are afraid to say. People like us, I'm now making friends with certain black people that never would have been my friend 8 or 9 years ago, who didn't want anything to do with people like me a few years ago. Now that these people are becoming aware and kind of understanding just how bad the problem is, and how how imperative it is that we come up with a solution to it. These people are now looking to people like me to say, what do we do next? How does this work? How should I analyze this? And let me tell you what they did to me at work every day, Dr. Boyce. All this other stuff. So I think that given that the black middle class has become radicalized, and you've got this deeply intricate connection between black and white people, where it's not like Iraq, where we're invading some foreign country and retaliating because they attacked us or whatever. It's like you're fighting a force that's right there inside the very fabric of your society. What you have, I believe, is a scenario where it's a good cop, bad cop kind of situation. Now, what do I mean by that? When I mean good cop, bad cop, I'm talking about the fact that if I'm the corporate Negro, if I'm the one who's sitting next to the vice president of the company, if I'm the one who has to trust the white folks, and I'm pissed off about all of this, what I begin to do is to say, hey, you know what? I would never go out here and do what Michael Johnson did. I would never do what Michael Johnson did because I think that, the loss of life is unfortunate in every situation. But then I would also follow up and say, it would be a lot easier if we didn't radicalize the Michael Johnsons of the world by killing so many young black men by the cops. I mean, remember, Micah was a person, he was 25 years old. So this brother's right in the belly of the beast in terms of exactly who the police hunt the most. They hunt the young black men the most. When Tupac Shakur was murdered when he was exactly the same age as Michael Johnson. So when you're that age, you're young, you're learning about how life works, you're filled with testosterone, you're pissed off easily, and they're messing with you every day. Then somebody's gonna say, I'm not gonna let you do that to me. I can't say that if I were 25 in grad school. In fact, when I was 25, that was when I became radicalized. That was when I started to kind of say, well, this ain't right. This shit ain't right. Y'all not going to do this to me. And what's interesting, I think about this, I was ready to die at that age. I was ready to die to stop you from messing with me. I was ready to take a bullet to keep you from disrespecting me. That's how I thought at the age of 25. Now, even now, I mean, now I don't care. I mean, I'll take a bullet for my people in a second, but it was a very different kind of energy where, I would say things. I was getting death threats when I was at University of Kentucky, and I used to write about racism. I didn't see anything wrong with what I was doing because I said, well, this is wrong. They can't treat us like this. And I would get death threats, and they didn't scare me. I didn't have any fear of any of that because I just kind of felt like, well, I mean, in a way, you're kind of killing me already, right? In a way, you're already killing people like me. My best friend, Greg Wilkins, was murdered that year when I was 25. So my point of view was very different, So again, I'm not trying to justify Micah Johnson, but I think it's okay to humanize Micah Johnson. I think that I think that President Obama can identify at least a little bit because you saw what he said when all this went down. I think President Obama said something like, these killings of black men by the police have to stop, and that's a subtle statement, but it's very powerful if you really look at the fabric of it. Because he could have easily taken the white man route, which is, because remember, he's half white, right? He could have easily said, today I'm gonna be a white guy, and so he could have said something stupid and generic like, these thugs, there's no place in our society for these thugs who harm our law-abiding police officers, and blah 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 blah, right? That's the typical thing they might say. But instead he's saying, look, maybe this guy reacted the way he did for a reason. Doesn't mean 99.9% of us wouldn't want to do something like that. You don't want it to get that heated, right? But most of us can identify with what he was feeling. Most of us might say, well, the way he responded wasn't quite the best way to respond right now, but we know exactly, we know his pain. You probably know mothers and sisters and women in your family who spent the whole day crying yesterday. You probably know men who are walking around frustrated every day. You probably know mothers who are afraid for their sons now every day because of this. So it's not as if we can't connect with that. So I really think that what you might end up having is kind of a good cop, bad cop dynamic, where those of you who don't want to join up in this, pick up arms and actually go out there and fight on something like that, you might at the very least kind of say, look, the problem is not the people who are responding to the violence. That's a minor problem. The fact of the matter is that their retaliation is a symptom in terms of a reaction to something that was done to them. I guarantee you, if the police were fair and they won't run around shooting down black men for no reason, I bet you Michael Johnson will still be alive. So to some extent, not only did the police kill Alton Sterling and kill Philando Castile, the police also killed Micah Johnson, both literally and metaphorically. They killed him before the gunfire even took off. So anyway, but with that being said, I have mixed feelings, right? Because I told you my father was a police officer for many years. I knew cops who were respectable, decent human beings. One of my very good friends, Ken Williams, was on yesterday, and he has led the charge in the fight against police brutality and police misconduct. He is now filing lawsuits left and right against the police. He's not afraid of that. And so I think that we have to respect those officers who have a concern for human life, who have a respect for their fellow human being. But at the same time, Ken made a very good point, and I agree with him, that those officers have to be challenged to speak up and stand up. Because what's happening is when you're letting that officer next to you, Officer Friendly, go in here and bully people and beat people down for no reason and disrespect people. I mean, at the very least, cops should talk to you with respect. That's one rule that could probably, what's the word? Not disengage, but you know what I'm saying. It would probably de-escalate. That's what I'm. One thing they can do that would de-escalate a lot of these situations from the very beginning is tell officers that you must approach every citizen with respect. Don't talk to me like I ain't shit. Don't cuss me out because I was speeding. Don't ask me unnecessary questions or be disrespectful to me. Do your job. Serve and protect. Serving and protecting me means that you should help me feel safe, and you're serving me. So I'm really the boss in this situation, not you. So why are you talking to me like I'm a nobody, right? And I think that just the idea that cops believe they can do that, that right there is a fundamental problem. So I want to say, I can't have this conversation without giving condolences to the families of the officers that were killed. I don't. I mean, that's painful. I know what it's like to have a father going off to work every day and wondering if your father's going to come home. So I'm not going to get to the point where I'm going to celebrate anybody's death. I just can't do that. But what I will say is that if you really want to understand this and kind of think about this dynamic in a particular way, go back to go watch when it's a good movie anyway. I don't know if any of y'all saw the Denzel Washington movie Crimson Tide. In Crimson Tide, there was a scene in the very beginning where he's sitting at a table and he basically says that he's basically talking about who the real enemy is when it comes to war, and he said you can't kill the real enemy, and they were like, well, who's the real enemy? And he said the enemy of war is war itself. And so ultimately, the real enemy is avoiding any kind of war, any kind of back and forth between black people and the police. Everybody will lose. But at the same time, you got to stop killing us. You got to stop all this. You got to stop this disrespect. You got to stop thinking that a black life is a life you can just take and nobody's going to care. That day is gone. And really, that was taught to you during this stupid war on drugs. See, that's the other funny thing. Somebody was saying to me, they were saying, well, black people can't win a war against America or against white people, but we would lose. And I said, well, I mean, if you're in a war, I mean, what are you saying? Are you saying that we shouldn't fight back? I mean, is that it? That we should do nothing? I said, we tried doing nothing. That doesn't really work very well. We tried praying for our enemies. We tried forgiving them. We tried all these other peaceful marches and rallies and protests. That don't work, right? So if you're in a war, what do you do? If you're being attacked and killed and slaughtered, what do you do? What do you do? Right? Because if you really think about it, war has been declared on black people for the last 400 years. The war on drugs was not a war on drugs. It was a war on black people. So when somebody declares war on you and the people you love, what do you do? Do you pray that they're not going to attack you anymore? No, it's not going to work. So, so I think that all of us have to kind of, really think about just what this means and understand that the answers don't have to be black and white. I don't believe the answers have to be black and white. I don't believe that it has to be, oh, I hate all cops. I just don't think that that's a thoughtful way to kind of respond to anything. And the answer also doesn't have to be, oh, I condemn anybody who who behaves in what I consider to be an extreme fashion. I think that in the mind of this brother, Micah Johnson, rest in peace, in the mind of this brother, he said, well, that gang over there has guns, so maybe my gang should have a gun too. And now, I mean, is that unconventional? Absolutely. Would I do the same thing? I don't think so. But then again, you never know because y'all keep pushing us. You keep pushing and pushing and pushing. What do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? So anyway, I wanted to tell you guys in case you just tuned in. And actually, I'm gonna take a quick breather to tell you. If you want a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, you can go to drboycewatkins.net. That's drboycewatkins.net. You can get a free e-copy of the book. Not .com, it's .net. So go there and you can just sign up and you get a free e-copy of the book. It kind of lays out some of these ideas in case it's something that can help you. Because I really think that all of us right now, what we're trying to do, what I see people doing is really getting in touch with their blackness. They're kind of reestablishing that. And, the thing is, there are some of us who never lost touch with our blackness, who never thought that it was cool to assimilate. And so maybe I can be of help to those who are just now kind of reshaping their perspective. I think that even if you're late for the party, as long as you show up, that's what matters. And my hope is that we take enough pride in ourselves and we love ourselves enough that we just understand that we shouldn't tolerate abuse from anybody. Because I really see police killings as sort of the beginnings of the abuse and neglect. They go far deeper. Again, I encourage you guys to really study the entire criminal justice system and see how that first interaction, that first often unnecessary interaction between black men and the police. Remember, a lot of these deaths occur for unnecessary reasons. You didn't have to stop Philando Castile for having a broken taillight. You didn't have to engage him in any capacity. You didn't have to open that rabbit hole over a busted taillight. Maybe you could have found a gentler way to deal with the situation. Like why is a man dead over a busted taillight? You don't have to confront Alton Sterling over the CDs he's selling or whatever. Maybe you can confront him in a different way. You didn't have to confront Eric Garner over a loose cigarette, right? You could have left it alone, or you could have dealt with it some other way, right? And that becomes the problem, is that interacting with police, just the interaction itself, becomes a deadly process. That's why I don't want to talk to a cop. I don't like talking to police, and I hate this feeling. I hate feeling like I can't even talk to a cop because I'm worried that that I might run into an asshole, or I might run into somebody who's asking a million and one questions, and somehow they conclude that I broke some law I didn't even know that I broke, and next thing you know, they're trying to detain me, and I'm getting mad, I'm fighting back, and the next thing you know, I got 20 years worth of charges, criminal charges on me for resisting arrest, assaulting an officer, all these other things that they would charge you with. So really talk police, unfortunately, if you're a cop and you're listening to this, or you know a cop, you've become poisoned by this system. The system literally gave you a virus where nobody wants to even be around you because you have all this authority, and you've been trained to use the authority in malicious ways, abusive ways, or ways that are just unethical, unfair, that are overreaching, overbearing. And as a result of this, don't nobody want to talk to you. Especially if I'm a brother who might have a warrant, or who might have some weed in his pocket, or who might have been in jail before. You traumatize people. People are traumatized by your very existence. That goes very far beyond this idea. That's way beyond the idea of serve and protect. You're not an officer anymore. You're part of a gang. You're part of a street gang at that point. And so now again, if I'm a white man out in the suburbs and I know I'm gonna be treated with a certain degree of respect, then yeah, you are here to serve and protect. I like you. You become the soldiers that protect my community, my nation from the quote unquote bad people. Like that's kind of what you are for me, right? But a soldier is not the same as a police officer, right? Theoretically, a soldier is somebody who is seen as an angel for one side and a devil for the other, right? If I'm a soldier for the United States, I'm seen as a hero to Americans, but I might be a nightmare for Iraqis if we declare war on Iraq. Well, because the police departments have declared war on black people, because you've declared war on black people, what's occurred is, black and poor people especially, what's occurred is you're no longer an officer that's seen as a person who serves and protects everyone. You're seen as a soldier who is an angel for rich white folks and a devil for poor black people. You're not seen in the same way. So and is it your fault? Not really. I mean, the system. Remember, police, because they're soldiers. Soldiers just follow orders, and so they're following orders that are unhealthy. You become no different from the Nazis. You really are a lot like the Nazis, the Nazi soldiers, who eventually were punished and put to death for what they did to the Jews during World War II. And in many cases, these Nazi soldiers were just following orders. But understand that there were other people throughout other questionable points in history, other Holocausts in history, or other times in history that were also following orders. A lot of people, when we talk about those teachers in Atlanta that got sent to prison for cheating on the test, they were following orders. But it just happens that since most of them were black, then they didn't care. They wanted to lock them up. Moving on, you have even to this day, you have cops that are just following orders, similarly, who basically are doing what the system's telling them to do. Well, right now, this is kind of a time in history where, you're in the middle of a Holocaust, and unfortunately, you've been positioned as a Nazi soldier to execute orders that are unethical. And so I don't know if I'm young and I'm thinking about being a cop, I don't do it. I don't want to be a cop. I would not want to be a police officer. I'm sorry, because the profession has tainted you so badly that people are not going to respond to you the way that they should. They're not going to reward you for becoming a cop for the right reasons. They're not going to see a cop as somebody who is taking the job because they want to help people. They're going to see you as somebody who's taking the job because you want to kill people. And I think that that's unfortunate because we need good cops. We need good systems. We need people to like and trust cops. I think that the entire criminal justice system in the United States needs to be ripped to pieces and rebuilt in the appropriate structure. That's the only solution. I mean, if you really look at this system, it is screwed up in so many ways that that really you can't fix this problem. It's like having a roach and termite problem in your house. There's a point where you really can't kill one roach at a time anymore. You can't kill one termite at a time anymore. You got to just go and put a roach bomb in the whole house and fumigate the entire house, clean out the entire house. Because this system's dirty. It's been tainted by the 40-year war on drugs, which AKA was a war on black people that gave police, all this military force, all these military tactics, it caused them to see black people as enemy combatants, caused them to get to the point where their disrespect for people they perceived as targets or whatever, just got so high that they were able to do whatever they wanted. It was a situation where cops were getting rich off of the people that they were supposed to serve and protect. It's a mess. It's an absolute mess. You can't fix it one incident at a time. Alton Sterling's death did not bother me just because I saw this brother shot, with a hole in his chest on TV. What bothered me is the fact that there are thousands of other Alton Sterlings that you will never see on TV. There are, I'm thinking about the shadows. I'm thinking about the stuff you don't see. It's not what you know that's the devil. It's what you don't know, and it's what you don't know that you don't know. That's where the problems are. That's where the real ugly nightmares exist. Or when Alton Sterling gets locked up, and let's say he doesn't get killed, he just gets shot. So because he just got shot in his arm and he's okay, then nobody reacts. The public doesn't care. Y'all ain't crying. Y'all ain't watching the news. Y'all not talking to your friends about it. You're going on about your business, going to your little job, your jobs, whatever it is you're doing, and you're not paying attention. So Alton gets hauled away to jail. He gets put into the system where, number one, he can't get a lawyer because he ain't got enough money. He's put in the county jail where people are consistently tortured and mistreated, especially down in Louisiana, which has some of the most notorious jails and prisons in the country, and racist as well. He's put before an all-white jury, an all-white group of executioners, basically, for black men who pretty much send black men to prison in droves. They send him to prison. While he's in prison, he is forced into slavery, where he's working for 10 cents an hour, and they're ripping his family to pieces financially because after paying all the money for the attorney, they're also paying for expensive phone calls, or to email is costing $1 per email, and stuff like that. So you're adding on all this other abuse in addition to the fact that he was shot by the cops or falsely apprehended or mistreated by the police during that very first interaction. And then while he's in prison, other horrible things happen, right? While he's in prison, you also have all the rapes and the beatings that occur. You have prison inmates who get raped by other inmates. You have prison inmates who get raped by the guards. You have prison inmates who get beaten by the guards, starved by the guards, frozen out by the guards, all kinds of other things. Yorima Karama, who does this segment on our YouTube channel called Voices from Behind the Wall, Yorima did 23 years in prison, and he talks about, and I have respect for brothers who were able to endure that kind of torture and come out halfway normal. And he didn't come out just halfway normal. He came out brilliant. He actually read hundreds of books while he was in prison, and he tells stories of some of the horrible things that happened to the Alton Sterlings of the world while they were in prison. And then, so while you're there, you're getting beaten, you're getting raped, you're getting starved to death, you're being frozen out, you're going through all these horrible atrocities they're putting you through. Again, Nazi soldiers, that's what it is. We're the Jews, they're the Nazis. That's what they're doing. They have concentration camps in America, just like they had them in Auschwitz. It ain't much different. The only difference is that there's more death that comes out of our concentration camps that came out of the Nazi concentration camps because it's spread over a longer period of time. And then, in addition to being made a slave, going through countless amounts of abuse and torture and rape and everything else, then you throw that man back out into society 20 years later. Alton Sterling now. This is Alton's life if he'd lived, right? So you throw Alton back into society. He's completely marginalized. He's mentally ill. He's probably, there's a good chance he may have caught a disease while he was being raped, so he might be infecting some black women at the same time. And he can't get a job, and he can't provide for his family. So you've really kind of murdered him spiritually. You've murdered him psychologically. You've also ruined him, quite a bit physically as well. But he's still breathing, and it doesn't appear that the devastation has occurred because you can't really see it as much. You might see a little bit symptoms of it, but that's very different from seeing a man laying on the ground with a hole in his chest. So sometimes for black men, if I had a choice, which would be a horrible choice, but if I had a choice between being a black man who was just shot and killed by the police And let's say I was, fortunate enough to, like, if the cops ever kill me, I hope they kill me on video. I hope they shoot me in the head right on national TV, or with clear HD cell phone footage, so that the rest of the world becomes mobilized in the way that people become mobilized after seeing these deaths. That's what I hope. So if I had a choice between being killed by the cops versus being dragged through that system over a 20-year period, I would choose death in a minute. I would choose death in a minute, because what they put our boys through, our young men through in that system is a human rights violation unlike any other. It is one of the worst human rights violation in documented human history. So the killing didn't start to get worse with Alton Sterling and Philando Castile. The killing is going on right now. There is somebody in prison. There's another Philando Castile in prison right now who's being raped by a guard, being murdered by stabbed by another inmate, or going through an unbelievable amount of torture because he got put in this white man system over a very petty crime. So if you want to be mad about that too. If you want to really be pissed off, I mean, if you really want to understand, I mean, if you really want to feel the depth of the emotion, if you want to feel what I feel every day, then go study this system. Go check out what Michelle Alexander talks about in the new Jim Crow. I mean, if you really want to be mad, don't get mad over something that CNN showed you on TV in terms of a video. That's part of it. But that's not even the beginning of all the things that you have to be pissed off about. And so all I'm really asking is that if you're angry right now, if you're hurt right now, I need you to hold on to that. I need you to stay pissed off for the next 40 years so that we can really fight this issue, so that it doesn't just disappear once they stop showing the killings on TV. Because believe me, they're going to do this. They're thinking about this. Their wheels are spinning. The people that run the government, that are responsible for thinking about national security, they're looking at this. They're studying this. Okay, when the killing is documented, the Negroes start to get restless, and when they get restless, they start to organize, and when they get organized, they start to do these other things. Right? They're writing all this down. So what's going to probably occur is they're going to come up with standards and regulations and protocols that will keep people from seeing things that will upset them. So I wouldn't be surprised if at some point they're just literally telling the media outlets, you can't show somebody being shot up like this on TV. They may make it a law. If they can't make it a law or a regulation, it may be kind of an unwritten rule, or they may literally cloak it as saying, look, if you really care about America and you don't want America to become destabilized, don't let these images get out to black people. Because there's a whole lot of stuff out here that you don't know, that you haven't seen, that would drive you insane if you were to see it. So there you go. Okay, Javier mentions the King Alfred plan. I'd be curious to know more about the King Alfred plan. One thing I want to throw out here, I'm going to tell you guys about this in case you just came in. Don't forget, go to drboycewatkins.net and you can get a free e-copy of my book, It Takes a Village to Raise the Bar, A New Paradigm for Black America. That's at drboycewatkins.net. Also, I encourage, if you really want to get into Black history and all these other, in touch with all the horrible shit that's been happening to us for hundreds of years, go order Hidden Colors. Go check out Tariq's film. You can actually order it from us if you want to at hiddencolors1234.com. You can get the whole set. I think everybody should have Hidden Colors in their house on the mantle, like it's the Encyclopedia Britannica. It should be part of your collection of Black history, so that when your child goes to school and the teacher says, well, everything great was in history was done by a white man, your child can actually say, no, that's not true. Here's some things black people did too. But also the interesting thing about Hidden Colors, and I was actually in Hidden Colors 4, is that there are so many things that you don't know that they've done to you in the past, and that they're continuing to do to you, that it would literally just drive you insane almost. I mean, you have to be careful not to go crazy over this, because the abuse is just so rampant, inexcusable, and pretty much unbelievable. So if you want to order the Hidden Colors set, go to hiddencolors1234.com. We actually throw in some educational materials as well as a lecture by Tariq. Tariq came by the Black Business School, and he actually talked about also how he built his company. Because I strongly believe that a large percentage of what it will take for black people to be empowered to fight against these things is economic power. When you have economic power, that translates into political power. Political power does not translate into economic power most of the time, unless you got political power and military power. If you got political power and military power, then that translates into economic power, because then you got the ability to just get your soldiers and get your tanks and go in and take somebody's shit. But political power, what we thought we obtained through things like the civil rights movement and stuff like that, that was borrowed political power. White folks gave that to us as kind of a little handout, little concession to calm us down. And then when they got upset, they took it right back. So ultimately, this is the same thing that's going to happen. The more you stand up for yourself, the more the enemy will retaliate against you, the more they will try to crush your soul, the more they will take away the things that they've given you in the past, and you got to kind of be ready for that. So you got to be ready for the fight. So those of you who have the little nice corporate jobs and you're feeling good, next to massa and everything else, just understand when you start standing up for yourself, there's going to be repercussions. There's going to be a retaliation. When I started speaking up on black issues, I mean, my performance evaluation started to drop. I started getting, sort of ostracized a little bit. But the thing is, you got to understand, you got a whole nation behind you. You got a whole community that's got your back. You got 40 million other black people that identify with what you're going through, who will stand with you, who love you. So focus on the love that you receive from your people instead of worrying about the love that you ain't getting from white folks. Like that right there is just a fundamental construct of self-esteem. Have the self-esteem to realize that I don't need you to like me in order for me to love myself. In many cases, our love for ourselves and each other is heavily predicated on our acceptance by other people. Black people who achieve certain stature in white America, whether it's winning certain awards or having certain business relationships or having a fancy title or having an affiliation with an organization which comes with some sort of labeling, those people tend to get more respect in the black community. And I think that and that's why I reject a lot of that. I really do. I don't when I meet people who brag to me about how they won an Oscar, I'm like, well, that's really good. I'm really happy for you, but I don't really care because Oscars mean nothing to me. If you tell me you're a vice president at a major corporation, I applaud you because I feel like your self-esteem really needs me to applaud you, needs me to tell you that that's really great what you did. But really, in the back of my mind, I'm kind of like, okay, yeah, well, all right. I wouldn't do it myself, but God bless you. And now, if you're taking that power that you obtain in these institutions and applying it, really deliberately applying it to help your community and also building infrastructure in your community, then that makes sense. And I'm talking about sustainable infrastructure. So that means that if I go and I work for a big corporation, I become a vice president or something like that, I take what I've learned and I go and I create something from the ground up with other people like me that serves the masses of my community. It's not a matter of me mentoring one or two black people to climb the corporate ladder in a big white company. That ain't doing nothing for nobody. That's helping a couple people. It's helping a couple people and their families. Good for you, good for them. But if you really want to make a substantive change, transformative change in a community, you must develop infrastructure. That's why it's very important that for the next generation of children, our children are taught to take pride in building things as opposed to just getting a good job. That's not going to really do anything for them. All right, so anyway, one of the things I mentioned earlier, for those of you who just kind of popped in, is that I did hear today, I heard this morning from Kelly Michelle, she goes by the name of the Black Health Goddess, at theblackhealthgoddess.com. That's her website. And she called me and told me that Corey Hughes, who's the brother of Mark Hughes, Mark Hughes was falsely accused of being the shooter in the Dallas police killing. She said that Corey reached out and asked for our help. And I don't know the brother, but he said that he said he trusted me, and he said he's smart. He said he said he don't really trust these other people out here, but he trusts me, and I don't take that for granted. I don't take that lightly. And he said that basically right now, and I'm mentioning this to you because we're trying to figure out how to help them. We're thinking about looking into I think I'm having Kelly set up a GoFundMe account or something, because right now she says that the brothers are getting lots and lots of death threats. And give me a second here. Kelly says, in fact, I think Kelly might be able to come in and talk herself. She says they're getting death threats like crazy, like you would not believe, from angry white folks who are pretty much like thinking that he was a killer. And and I don't know if you know, but basically what went down was okay, I'm gonna tell her to log in. And so basically what went down was that the brother Mark, I think it was Mark, was carrying an AR-15 on his back at the peaceful protest. And many of you might have seen the interview that he did with The Root, where basically he and his brother Corey were explaining that all Mark was doing was, something that would have been totally. And so effectively, what happened was, um, hold on. So effectively, what happened was that, as he was carrying this AR-15, the police misidentified him as the shooter and plastered his face all over the world. And so now, the crazy lunatics are coming after him, and so he said his family's in danger. I wrote down some notes in terms of what I was told. He was getting messages like nigga, you're dead, stuff like that. He can't go to work. They still need a lawyer. These brothers are business owners, and so they can't even go run their business without worrying about something happening to them or their family. So I think that this is a time that we rally around them and support them. So Kelly's going to set up I see praying. Paula says she's praying. Well, I hope you pray, but after you pray, I hope that you'll help with whatever effort is put in place to support them. And what I'm thinking is the best way we can help them right now is, number one, not just me telling you about it, but also me, us giving money to this GoFundMe account. Every penny will go to them. I'm not going to keep a single penny of it. And the money will go toward paying an attorney or something so they can clear their name, get the protection they need, and be safe. So what I'm going to do is, if you're watching on YouTube, I'm going to tune out because I'm going to actually load some of this up later on. I want you to go to our Facebook page, and you can follow some of this because I want you guys to actually see